What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Nutrition Coaching Secrets Podcast, Coffee and Cash edition. We are back. My man, Zach, what's going on, brother?
Dude, good to be back, man. Got coffee in hand, got the Lions mug. Let's talk some knowledge today.
Well, and apparently, my friend, in our time away, we have put on some significant muscle and we have become juice monkeys because I guess, well, there you have it. Somebody decided to leave us a comment claiming that we are juice monkeys. I guess if my 5'9", 190-pound frame makes me a juice monkey, I'm incredibly flattered. I barely work out anymore. Like, I'm lucky if I get to the gym 3 to 4 times a week. So I am very, very flattered, dude. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it's validating, man. I'm 3 weeks into the New Year's fitness journey, and like anyone who's going to compare me to putting on muscle like that, like I feel like I've made it. Like, This is it. We're in February, and like I've peaked.
Dude, 2021 off to a great start, man. We're leaving 2020 behind. All the gains and none of the lockdown. So we're good, dude. Usama, apparently I've been on your program, brother. Shout out to our man Usama. Guys, go check him out. He has an amazing muscle building program, actually. So if that is something you're interested in, you really should go follow him. Tommy, the producer, if you can put up like any of Usama's tags at some point, that'd be amazing. But he's a really good dude, man. Shout out to him. And let's jump in. So obviously, like, given my setup, I don't have a mic. I don't have like ring light. I'm literally in a hotel room. I'm traveling this week, brother. But in my travel, as we were texting this morning, you had a great topic, and I thought it was really something we should discuss on the podcast today, man. So do you want to share what that is, and let's dive in?
Let's do it, dude. So I think especially the new year, everyone's kind of like focused on like what's good for 2021, like what they want to accomplish. And the biggest thing I keep hearing from coaches is like, I don't have enough time, or like, I want more time, or like, can we please like go to like 28-hour days? And I think there's this really big misconception, especially in the coaching space, where you feel like you have to wear all the hats of like, I need more time to get stuff done. And I think we both know, like, being decently successful, like that's just not the case. Like, everyone has 24 hours, but like lack of time is likely a manifestation of something else going on.
Well, I agree with that 100%. I mean, listen, I run multiple businesses. I'm very fortunate. People are like, oh, but you have a team. I didn't always have a team. At my peak in my nutrition coaching business, I was running, scaling, and operating. And when I say operating, I haven't met anybody that has ever gotten more, like, that's had more clients than I once had at my peak, right? I had 167 clients. And I found a way to get it done. So first and foremost, like, lack of time goes into something I talked about on a different podcast episode where I kind of ranted about this whole balance myth. There's that, right? Like, we could look at it from that side, but I also, and I think we're going to probably be aligned on this in the sense that a lot of times lack of time is really shining a light upon the fact you just have no idea what the fuck you're doing. Yep. And you spend the majority of your time doing stupid shit that doesn't really move your business forward. And when I say stupid shit, I also mean comfortable shit, right? And so as you texted me this, I was literally driving this morning, and I'm like thinking about it in my head, and I was like, man, I'm in the process of putting together a project right now. And I've actually used this exact saying in my own head. I'm like, God, I wish I had more time. No. Like, I also fucking took a nap 2 days ago at 4 p.m. Like, I have the fucking time. It's just, it's so incredibly uncomfortable to me, right? And it's so incredibly difficult that I didn't necessarily know where to start, so I put it off. So I think there's a lot of angles for us to go in on this on. Number one, just being you're trying to be too balanced. Number two, being you don't really have KPIs to drive your time into. I mean, I think that we've narrowed business down really to like 4 key things inside of mastery, which is, lead gen, lead nurture, sales, and ultimately maximizing LTV. And then obviously there's like the discomfort of doing something new and avoiding it and blaming time. So where do you want to start? Because I think all 3 have validity. Let's jump in.
So I think the biggest place to start, and this is top of mind for me in putting together a presentation for your boardroom group, really on how to build a 7-figure business, is like, you have to start with the direction. And like, we always go back to this of like where you're trying to go. And it starts with like the strategy. I think an inability to make decisions, an inability to like figure out what you should be prioritizing is normally a manifestation, like you said, like not knowing where you're going and not knowing like what it takes to get there. So I think like in that case, like it's easy to find. I think strategy gets mystified. What's clearly defined, I think the best definition I've heard was Rebecca Homke's, or Dr. Rebecca Homke's from like London School of Business. Like strategy is nothing more than your articulation of like how your business creates value, and value is nothing more than the gap between your customer's perception of what it's worth and your cost of delivery. So if you go in with it like that, like you have a very clear framework for what you should or should not be doing. Does it increase customer value? Yes or no? Does it decrease my cost of delivery? Yes or no?
You know, it's interesting, man. Like I love that. And I love looking at it from that lens. And so now I'll dive in like one step deeper, and I'll talk about like really like the components that happen inside of somebody's business. And I've been really bullish on the fact lately that all coaches, especially nutrition coaches, should, I've always talked about the need for a framework, but I've always said like you need to have a defined process, even if you don't name your framework or, and Russell Brunson recently on a podcast talked about you're selling a solution, then you're backing that solution into a framework, you're selling that framework as a product, and right, like he actually literally zooms out and talks about all of those things.
Yeah.
Well, I really believe that if you're a coach and you don't have that process, you're doing entirely too much work for yourself. Right? Meaning you're becoming so transactional in the sense of like you're showing up and you're trying to solve a problem, but you don't know where that problem fits in the grand scheme of things. And listen, I was as guilty of this as anybody for a very long time. In fact, like looking back on nutrition coaching, I had basically a 7-year run of like zero to sustaining multiple millions of dollars, right? Yeah. The first 3 to 4 years, I was so transactional, dude. I would get on the phone and I would be like, all right, like what's going on? And I would solve that problem, but I didn't see where that problem was in like the grand scheme of things. And to be honest, sometimes I was creating more problems than I was solving, right? Yeah. Whereas towards the end, there was 4 things I looked at, right? And 4 things only. And it was, all right, let's create awareness. What happened? What's been happening? Like, let's define where are we today? Let me educate you on that so that I know you understand what we're doing. Let me take into account any non-negotiables for the next week or so, and then let me give you your new application and deploy it against our bigger target, right? And so when my clients came to the call, they were like 10-minute calls, dude, because they were like, okay, awareness, education, desires, new application. Like they knew that, right? And it was very simple. I had an abundance of time. I had no extra mental energy. But then I got in the business space and I went right back to the transactional bullshit. Yeah. And because it's what's comfortable, right? Like we're problem solvers with what's in front of us. We don't like to deploy against something bigger. Over the last year, I've really started deploying against something bigger. Dude, number one, my clients crush it way more today than they ever have because they know there's 4 simple things, right? Literally prior to this, I had a call scheduled the whole half-hour block before this. It took 8 minutes. And the client got on and was like, my lead gen is fire. I just need to figure out my lead nurture. And I was like, oh, let's fix that, right? Because she already knew about the machine. She knew how things were working. And it was like, holy shit, by us putting together this process, it works. And so I think that I tell you that because people that quote unquote don't have time, you don't have time because you're just doing random shit that doesn't add up to the big picture that you actually desire, right? You don't know where your time is really invested and why it's invested there. And I feel like that's so critical to maximizing time long term. I mean, obviously at the scale we're getting to, fuck man, time is my most valuable resource.
Yep. Well, I think you hit on it there is like if you have at a macro and micro level, from a micro level, the client, if you have a framework, you can easily orient yourself. Okay, like where are we today? Where are we trying to go? Yep. The exact same thing works in a business. Like you said, like there are 4 components to the machine. Where am I now? Where am I trying to go? What's broken? Like, what do I need to hop in and fix? And then addressing those in chronological order. And I think what really screws people up with time management, which I think is really like attention management, is they're focused across all 5 of those, like all 5 of those or all 4 of those. I have 5 components in business. I know you have 4 in the machine. And they're trying to do like a little bit in every one rather than just saying like, okay, what is broken? Like if you have a hole, like if you have a bucket and like there's a hole in the bucket, like rather than just pouring more water into the bucket, like where's the hole? How do I fix it? Because then like when you do that, you'll start to recognize like other problems in your business and then you just go and do those. So I think there are so many people who are like, okay, I just need to do like 15 minutes of lead gen today and a little bit of lead nurture and then sales, and then I do fulfillment, and then I do retention and upsell, and then I do like do it again, rather than just saying that like, okay, like today I'm going to focus on lead gen. And within lead gen, like I need to figure out Facebook ads. And like all I'm going to do today, like this is literally my day actually, is like figure out like how Facebook ads work, how to run Facebook ads, like what is the psychology behind Facebook ads. So tomorrow, when I can continue my business, I can focus on like the lead nurture part. But if I don't figure out this Facebook ad stuff and I don't figure out lead gen, like it doesn't matter what happens down the line, because I'm constantly just going to be trying to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and nothing's going to get done.
It's like, I get clients that come in all the time and they're like, what should my Google Doc look like when I give it to a new client? And I was like, well, how many new clients have you gotten? Well, none. But, I figured I haven't gotten any clients because I don't have so you're telling me the people that are not investing money with you or showing up on your doorstep are not doing so because they secretly know that your Google Doc is fucked up? Yeah. Is that what you're telling me? Right. And like, I remember, Alex Hormozy has become a little bit of a mentor to me, and super grateful. Like if he, whatever reason hears this, like super sharp dude. And I'm very grateful for all the wisdom he's been passing on to me lately. And I remember on one of his podcasts, he said, he starts talking about one of his friends talking about fulfillment issues. And he asked his friend, he's like, well, how many clients do you have? And his friend's like, like 2 or 3. And he's like, well, why don't you focus on getting clients before you worry about your fulfillment issues? Because your fulfillment is not the issue. And it's like, it goes back to what you said, whether it's the 5 components or the 4 components, it's, you're trying to understand right now lead generation. You've got a phenomenal product, and you don't need to worry about the sales script to close that, because the first thing we need is leads getting to that, right? Yeah. And we don't need to worry about nurturing those leads because we don't have the leads yet, right? And so people are so distracted, but it goes back to my point of comfort as well, right? There's so many coaches that are visually oriented, and they want to go get hard on by posting in their, their Facebook groups. And they're like, look at this really pretty intro guide. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, congratulations. You know how to use Canva. I'm really proud of you. Because I still don't know how to use Canva, by the way. So I'm
very, very complex.
Yeah, it probably is not at all, but I'm just a fucking idiot. Okay, let's go back to time, right? My time is not well invested using Canva. I can pay somebody to do that for me. But anyway, like they get off on that, right? And they're like, I put out this information, I'm showcasing all this information to the world, yet doing those things, do you know why you're doing that? Like, you're just like, I'm like every other, Tom, Dick, and Harry that's like, I'm literally putting out my content to social media. Okay, great. But is that lead gen? Is that nurture? Is that sales? Is that maximizing lifetime value? Because if it's not one of those 4 things and it's not one of the core components of your business model, then why are you doing it? And the question is, well, because I heard I was supposed to. Okay, so you heard you were supposed to do this. You don't have enough time, but you don't even know why you're doing things. Like, that's to me like where the time argument comes in. Is it's really just a lack of clarity of where you should be deploying your efforts.
Yeah, well, I love how you touched on the comfort piece, because like if I want to share like my biggest mistake in business was downplaying the importance of lead gen, lead nurture, and sales and marketing. Like I've always been very strong at operations, delivery, strategy, and the overall like execution of the business. It's because I never had to take care of those parts. And I think if you look at the behaviors and traits and skills that come, I think least naturally to people, like very like rarely is somebody like, oh, I'm just like naturally good at lead gen. And then like everyone comes in, like those people are called marketers, and then you have fulfillment issues.
I was like, hi.
So like, but that's an unnatural skill for a lot of people to like naturally gravitate towards. So like you said, that the comfort, like they just go back to like, oh, I'm like a really good coach, so I'm going to spend my day like reading the latest research papers, doing whatever I can, like looking at like the latest and greatest, like trying to tweak my programming to the nth degree, rather than like addressing step 1 in the pipeline, because like they're stuck at it. Yeah.
No, I mean, dude, it's like, we all know those people that have 10 million certifications that could not like get a client if their life depended on it. And it's like, and it's really unfortunate to me, because I think, again, I mean, at the root of what we do as, I guess we could call ourselves business coach at this point. I think that word has such a bad connotation, but doing it in terms of helping people grow their business, it really is unfortunate, because we want impact, right? That is at the core root. I mean, dude, we both have our stories, myself being anorexic, like you literally dying, coming back from the dead. Like We have our stories as to why this is so important, and I think that it's still at its core. I get as excited seeing somebody make $1 million as I do seeing somebody say like I helped 100 clients today. Like that's fucking cool, man. Like there's no two ways about that. Like it's really impressive, and it's unfortunate when I see such educated people unable to get their message to the masses, because I know that like the world could benefit from that. And it's just like, man, like you need to get better at this, but you're so comfortable getting certification after certification and learning, and your self-worth is tied to your knowledge, not to your impact. And it's interesting that I say that, because I don't even believe that's a true statement. Your self-worth is not tied to your knowledge. You've created this validation that if you get knowledge, it will equate to success, even though when you put your head on the pillow at night, you're lying to yourself. Yep. And you're so scared to step outside of that comfort zone. And that's, man, like if I feel like I've become a very good marketer, and it's not a skill. Ironically, when I started, it's not innate to me at all. I fucking hated the fact that I had to post on social media for so long. I hated that I had to be on videos. I hated that I had to do presentations. Like I just don't like it. Like I am very, and you know this about me from going to events, I'm very antisocial. Like when everybody thinks because of the character that I play on social media that I'm very like loud and that I want to be with people all the time. And like, it couldn't be further from the truth, man. Like at 5 o'clock when the event's over, I'm like, get me to my room and shut the fuck up. Like, I don't want to talk to anybody. So it's really, it's not natural for me to do those things. But again, I make time for them every day because I understand the importance and I understand where those things fit into the grand scheme of my business. And I think it's massively important that we recognize that.
Well, I think you just hit on the two biggest things there. Like what we started with was a time management issue. And then like you kind of like creep that back and peel the layer to like, okay, like you don't know where you're going. But I think like the real underlying issue is like, as you touch on that, and I kind of think about this, it's an ego and a self-awareness issue. It's an ego issue in the sense that like you've become so tied to the things that you've gotten praise for and built the stories of gratification around that like you were like a really good coach, or like you're really good at like reading things or like learning things. And to do something that is out of character with that is a blow to your ego. And the second part of that is the self-awareness. Like the inability to kind of like look at where you're at and look at like, if you keep doing this behavior, like, is it going to get you where you want? Like when you look at your strategic vision and you look at your actions, like do those align? And I think like, if you ask a lot of people, like they haven't taken that step back to say, hey, like, is what I'm doing today going to get me there tomorrow? And like, am I really like at my core willing to change my behavior, willing to like take a blow to my ego in order to reach that goal that I've set for myself?
So here's what I love about this podcast. And if you're still watching right now, we're 18 minutes in, right? And you came here because you thought we were going to talk about time management. We are talking about time management. We're just looking at it from a completely different lens. And in my opinion, a much more appropriate lens, right? And so if we went and we Googled time management, what's going to pop up? You're going to get a host of articles on how to time block your day, right? This is when you should focus on this. This is when you should focus on that. And I'm actually going to give completely different advice. And I think that if you're walking away from this and you're like, how do I win back my day? How do I win back my time? The very first thing I am going to ask you is, why are you doing all of the things you're doing? And I think that if you can look from a macro level at what you're trying to accomplish, and you can break it into, 5 buckets, 4 components of machine, whatever it is, 3, 4, 5 things, and say, I do, and using our business, right? Lead generation, lead nurture, sales and lifetime value, right? And if I look at all of my actions and I can deploy them against one of those things, and I can wake up and I can now say, okay, what needs the most work in my business? Now I know what I need to do. And it will literally change my focus, and it will allow me to do the things like time block efficiently and actually see success, right? Time blocking is a tactic. It's not a strategy, right? And tactics deployed without strategy are fucking useless.
Yeah.
That's
I think you hit on the biggest thing there is like, do I know why I'm doing what I'm doing? Like, do you have a very clear cut answer of like, is this going to help me? Yes or no? And like the biggest story that like comes up with me, I think it was 2002 or 2004. the UK men's like Olympic rowing team. Like, bear with me here. They got fucking smoked in like the 2000 Olympics in Sydney, and like it left a really bad taste in their mouth. They were kind of went back to the drawing board and started like, well, how do we win? And like they threw out a bunch of answers, and it was kind of like this and that. And I think like they ended up coming up with like, okay, like we need to measure all of our actions, but will it make the boat go faster? Like, am I going to go out and drink with my friends? Like, does it make the boat go faster? No. Should I go do my second workout of the day, even though I'm tired from the first one? Will it make the boat go faster? Probably so. And you start to string that along over a 4-year campaign of compounding decision-making, because compounding is like the eighth wonder of the world. You mentioned like time working for you. You start to get things that go radically in your direction. So when you look at your business today, like, is this going to help with lead gen? Like, is this going to help with client delivery? And even with that, like, what is my biggest problem right now? It's being willing to focus on that and not do everything else until that issue is addressed, so you can move forward to the next thing and say, will this grow my business? Will this add value? Will this reduce my costs? Yes, no, and that's it.
And you've now transitioned to what I believe is the perfect conclusion to this, which is maximizing your time, or those of you with a lack of time need to stop thinking about outworking people and start considering that you need to out-sacrifice people. Because all of the things that you mentioned there, if I go out and have a drink, okay, well, first of all, that's not moving you forward. Second of all, yeah, you might have to sacrifice some time going out and having drinks. Like getting up at 4 a.m. Okay, that sucks. I do it every fucking day, right? I'm used to it by now. Guess what? Like, it is extremely unreasonable to think that I will not crush you if I have an extra 90 minutes per day uninterrupted for me to work on things. Right. And so everybody thinks it's this game of hustle and grind and work. And that's where the whole time thing comes into play. No. You win back your time when you start out sacrificing people. And dude, like, I mean, I could give examples after examples and it would fucking make a lot of people butt hurt. But you know, I remember on Shark Tank one time, like Mark Cuban was literally talking about like college relationships as like a male. And like women would come in his life, and he's like, of course, naturally, as a man, like he wants to sleep with this woman, and this woman would be like, great, like I want to hang out on Friday night, and he's like, no, I got to work, and she's like, and he's like, okay, on to the next, and he like literally that was his mindset. He's like, I am sacrificing, and Gary Vee talks about it, right? He punted his 20s, right, to get to his 30s, and he actually said candidly somewhere, he said like, if you could go back and do one thing differently, and he's like, I would have hooked up with more women, right? like he actually said that on an interview. And like good for him for fucking saying it publicly. But like, dude, you gotta sacrifice. And I don't think people comprehend, man. I mean, I'm 36. I've sacrificed a lot. And when I look at the times when I've been most successful and least successful, when I had a downturn, I wasn't sacrificing as much. And that's just the truth. And today, for us really driving things forward, man, I'm very fucking focused, man. I'm focused and I'm clear. Like I think I probably work less hours than most people think I do. Like if I'm being very transparent. I think a lot of people think I work from like 4 a.m. to like 10 p.m. and I certainly don't. Yeah, I mean, I play golf virtually every day. I get to the gym. Like I've started to prioritize myself. So yeah, dude, I love this conversation, man. I mean, it could go on for days. Obviously, I have a hard cap today on time, so we're gonna start wrapping this up. But I mean, dude, really, I think that people need to take a hard look. And if you don't have structure, if you don't have a system, if you don't know why you're doing things and you're complaining about time, stop trying to solve the time issue and start fixing the structure issue. Because when you fix the structure issue, everything will start to fall into play. I'll tell you what, man, you'd be hard pressed to find a better start line than what we just outlined the last 30 minutes. Yep. I don't care anywhere you're in business, any problem you're experiencing. If you listen to this podcast again 2, 3, 4 times, you are going to find something that will move you forward. Like I feel that strongly about what we just talked about.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think like you really tailed it in the last part. Like hard work is not enough. Like success, like my definition of success is hard work strategically applied.
Amen.
Like anyone can work their ass off. And like you were not the hardest worker in the room. There's some kid in China who's working in a sweatshop right now, like real talk. Yeah. 14 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like, unless you're willing to do that, like you're not the hardest worker in the room, but what you can do is pair a good work ethic with a strategic decision application of saying like, what am I willing to give up to get where I want to go?
Yeah. I mean, listen, if you find yourself grinding, what are you grinding for? why are you doing the current task? And if you can't give me a really good action, like a really good answer for that, then you're really just jerking yourself off to the fact that you're a hard worker, and like, good for you. Like, congratulations. I'll give you a trophy.
Yep.
But I'm going to go out and I'm going to do what I do, and we're going to make money. So, guys, you know, as always, I enjoy these podcasts, man. It's great for us to do a chat. It's been a minute, and really excited for what you have coming up. Can't wait for the world to see it, dude, because you got something really cool coming, and it's going to help a lot of people. And we've got something really cool coming, and it's going to help a lot of people. And so, yeah, as always, guys, much love. We're cheering for you. If there's anything you need, let us know. Until, I'm going to say next episode, because my show up rate has not been very good. So until the next episode, guys, we love you. Have an amazing day.
Dude, work hard.